When you're looking at a frame to sound design, you want to think of at least two things.
Okay.
Space and ambiance, which is one thing.
Right.
And what's center frame. But like for something like this, it'd be like, okay, we got coffee ambiance and water center frame.
Yeah.
Okay, Oliver's fire.
Yeah,
I mean, can I tweet that?
What's up, everybody? We are actually out here in Salt Lake City, Utah to talk to you about sound, audio, and a bunch of new gear we just added to the Moment website.
Ooh! 225 at 300 right here.
What?
That looks so sick.
We were really inspired by the Moment Invitational submissions, but really what set some of the films apart, put them on another level, was the sound quality. So we wanted to dive into that a little bit more because it's something that's often overlooked by filmmakers.
But before we get started,
let's get into some gear and then we'll talk to Oliver.
let's do it.
The Shure MV88 Plus microphone kit.
The Rycote Windjammer. The Grip Tight 1 Gorilla Pod.
The Grip Tight Pro 2 mount.
The Gobi 62mm variable ND filter.
The GorillaPod 3K.
The Rhino Rove Slider.
The Gobi Duet filter set, which has a CPL and a UV.
The brand new Moment Bluetooth remote.
The limited edition Moment Silver Anamorphic Lens. 2019 Moment Invitational Special.
So Oliver is an amazing filmmaker, sound designer, sound engineer. He comes from a musician's background, a jazz background, but we flew him out here because he is the audio master and he's gonna give us a bunch of practical tips, whether you're a beginner or super advanced, on basically how to make your edits, your films sound a ton better.
We shot all day yesterday, and I'm gonna sit down with Oliver right here, and he's gonna kind of help me walk through some audio tips so we can get the audio dialed.
Really pumped.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, so we are back at the house. We have some really amazing footage after shooting all day yesterday. So the edit is coming together. We're at the point where we need to work on audio, hence Oliver's presence here today. In each scene, we tried to record a few bits of audio, just some good like kind of ambiance recordings, and then we'd get close to whatever the subject was and get a recording of that. Anything that we don't have but need audio of, we will record today here in the house or maybe around outside if we need that. So we're gonna kind of dive in right now.
So when we actually get into Premiere, since we're staying in Premiere for this actual audio tutorial, if you will, the first thing I like to do is keep your tracks organized. So bring all your audio in and label it in bins. So you've got your camera audio that's already connected, baked into the camera file. That's great. You also have your natural sound if you go record out in the field. When you're still out there, that's natural sound. You put that in a separate bin. And then if you have any Foley, which is recording in a studio environment to make, I don't know, a reproduction of a real sound. Get all that organized in the actual project window. And then when you bring it into your sequence, make sure that your tracks are labeled and stay organized. The easiest way to label your tracks is actually up in the audio track mixer. So if you haven't worked with the audio track mixer, I would recommend Foley and not Foley. It's the same word.
Audio jokes.
Nobody thought that was funny but me. So audio 1 for us is going to be scratch camera, so we'll just call that cam audio. And then for us, audio 2 is going to be nat sound, which is short for natural sound. So we'll put that in there. So for audio 3, we're actually going to call it Foley 1, and we're going to leave an option to do Foley 2, maybe even Foley 3, because stacking Foley sounds is one of the ways to kind of trick the listener into believing they're in an environment. So we'll go ahead and assume 2 and go Foley 2 over here on track 4. Okay. And then over here on, we'll create another track when we get to it. That'll be the music.
Music. Okay, cool.
The second tip I would say is don't be afraid to use a lot of natural audio, especially from the camera. And if you're using your phone, that's just like the audio your camera, or sorry, your phone actually records into it. Using that in your edit instead of getting rid of it can actually enhance the project a lot. And I always say, especially with slow motion. So if you take like 60 frames or 120 frame footage, typically you'll throw out the audio because you don't want it to be that like warbly, slow-mo stretch sound. I would always like take the actual audio that came from the phone and just extend it the length of that slow-mo clip. And a lot of times your ear won't match with your eyes and it'll still feel natural. So you're not looking for lip sync, but it just provides, again, more of that ambiance.
Great.
Because the whole point of filmmaking is to bring somebody into an environment.
Right.
And
Put
sound,
them in the scene.
Right. And sound does that so well. One of the most rampant problems I see, especially in YouTube, and honestly, like filmmaking in general, is people that don't fade their audio properly.
Okay.
What does that mean? That means bringing the levels down on the front and the back of the clip to avoid the clicks and pops.
Right.
Big thing for music. I started in music and audio, and so that's a big deal. So how do you do that in Premiere? Let me just show you real quick. Okay, so in Premiere, you're going to go up to Premiere, go down into Preferences, and get into Timeline. And you're going to find Audio Transition Default Duration. It's defaultly set to, by default, it's set to 1 second. Click Frames, and just go 2 frames. And then hit OK. And then what you do is literally go to your timeline, Command A, grab everything, Command Shift D. And what happened right there? Little tiny 2-frame transitions went into every single cut. Now, you don't want to do that until the very end of the whole edit, because if you do that before it and you have snapping issues, it'll snap to the crossfade instead of snapping to the actual clip. But
sure,
at the end of everything, literally, I just Command A, Command Shift D. Now, the way to do that without the key command is go into Sequence, apply Audio Transition.
Okay.
Shift, Command D.
Yep. There it is.
Boom. And you just got to remember to set that to 2 frames, because if it's 1 second, it's going to be
way
really
too
long.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so one of the hardest parts of filmmaking with mobile and phones is the actual audio, because these things weren't designed to be cinematic camera capture devices, right? And so the newer iPhones, I'm not sure about Android, they actually do record in stereo, but these mics are really tiny and on the edge of the phone, and a lot of times if you're out like shooting, you get that wind clipping sound. So common, especially if you're like even moving a little bit, if the wind hits it. And you know, there's technology to try to deal with that, but still, it's not meant to be used for filmmaking.
Right.
So one of the ways around that is to get a mobile filmmaking solution. And in this case, the Shure MV88 Plus is an excellent mic tool to use with your phone. So not only does it plug in with USB-C for Android or Lightning for an iPhone, but it does have a headphone pass-through. So you can actually plug your headphones right into here with the 3.5 millimeter jack. That is huge, because modern, iPhones, you can't actually plug your headphone in at all, even if you wanted to, which they took that away without asking any of us.
Rude.
So the other cool thing about this is it does record in stereo. It's technically a mid-side mic, but we won't even get into that. What stereo does for you is it creates a wide soundscape, bringing you into a moment.
Wow.
Sorry, guys.
Barf.
In the actual Shure app that you're recording in, you can actually shape that sound, decide how wide your stereo field is. Really valuable stuff.
A really helpful part of the Shure app is you can actually go in and record just audio, so you're not filling up your phone storage with a bunch of footage that you actually don't need. So yesterday in our scenes, we would film separate audio clips, and then each one we would label. So we were in the bookstore and I was flipping pages. We would grab just the audio of me flipping the pages, get real kind of close up to the book, and then label it so you know what you're working with in Premiere when you pull up your Nat sounds.
So sound design really is the art of subtle exaggeration. So let's go back to our shot. And if I were doing this, I would look and I would do this. So highlight your clip. When you hit M, it creates a marker in the sequence. When you highlight a clip, it creates a marker in the clip, right? So let's just hold K and L to go frame by frame for all the touches. Here's a solid touch happening like right here. Let's put a little marker. Let's go. So we got that there. Let's go grab another one. And as your fingers start touching it, put a little marker. These are not the definitive sync points, but it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
So let's talk about compression. Just for a quick second. This is where things could get really complicated. I just want to give you some practical uses for a compressor and why it's used so widely across the audio world. So for example, looking in our timeline right here, you can just see the waveforms. Some of these clips are really hot. Some are really soft. They go hot again, they spike, they go soft. So you can actually even that out yourself using that little keyframe line on the clip and go clip by clip, which will help. But when you use a compressor, something special happens. So let's talk quickly about dynamic range. Dynamic range is the amount of distance between your lowest, quietest sound and your loudest sound. It's called dynamic range. So the higher your dynamic range, the crazier the spikes are going to be. Lower dynamic range, the more subtle the spikes are going to be. Like volume Or gain takes the whole dynamic range. So pretend like my hand is the dynamic range. This is the lowest sound. This is the highest sound. Volume up moves the whole thing. Volume down moves the whole thing. Compression does this, squashes it. So it's going to decrease the dynamic range, evening things out. So then later, you can move the whole thing up or down.
Great.
The way it does that is based on a threshold you set and a ratio. So let's open a compressor and just look at it together. You got to toggle down this disclosure triangle right here. Grab the top of the line. This is going to be your effects rack. I know this is like so high level and confusing, but just trust me, move with me here. We're going to do this together.
Okay.
Grab it, go to amplitude and compression.
Okay.
Grab a single band compressor. That's the most simple thing there is. So this guy here, just ignore that. That's like your quick keys for quick changes. I never do that. Double click on the compressor itself, it brings it up. So here are all the parameters of a compressor. Threshold, ratio, attack, release, and output gain. All you need to think about is threshold and ratio. When you're doing compression for sound design, I like to go gentle. So just trust me here and set it to 4:1. All that means is when the audio goes above a certain threshold, it's going to be quartered. So take the 4:1 and flip it. It's a fourth of the original volume. So like the higher the ratio, the more it compresses it back down. So when you set that ratio, then you want to talk about the threshold. How do you set your threshold? Well, you got to look at your peaks, man. Over here on the right side is your meters, or wherever they are for your Premiere setup. Play through, look at the peaks. Okay, between -12 and -6 on that driving shot, we got...
This one's the motor.
Yeah, let's just skip that.
Yeah.
This is a lake shot, we're between -12, -10, and then look at this. We're way down like -30.
-30.
So to bring these appropriately down, I would set it about -15. So now any sound that goes above -15 decibels will be quartered. So if you want to learn more about compression or audio tools in general, I actually did an audio tools course in December of 2017. You can go over to my channel and check that out, where we talked about compressors, EQ, gates, de-essers, and limiters. So if you want to know what those if you want to know what those are, go check that out. Okay, last tip. You have everything in your sequence. Everything's ready to like export, and you want to upload this so bad and show all your friends, all your subscribers, all the family members that subscribe to your YouTube channel. The last thing you should do is listen to your mix at a very low volume. What I always tell people is turn the volume on your headphones and your computer way down, so like you can barely hear
I was
it.
like the first dial, like
Right.
that quiet.
Right, like
Okay.
well down to like so that you can still hear it, but it's just very faint.
Okay.
And if you're in a quiet room, if you can still hear everything in the mix and it sounds clear, you got a great mix.
Okay. It's a good, like...
Keep it quiet.
All right, so that about wraps things up here with Oliver. It's amazing to have him here. We were so inspired by all of the MIFF submissions this year. We found that one of the biggest factors that really kind of set apart the finalists this year was having really nice, clean audio. So that's why we did this today. We hope it was helpful. Be sure to go check out these products. Follow Oliver on YouTube and Instagram. Do you want Instagram followers?
Sure.
Sure, he'll take those too. Thank you guys for watching. We hope this helped.
Great hanging with y'all.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See you
Thanks
later.
for having me, Mo.
Cheers, guys.
It
Cheers.
was a blast.
Cheers.
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 I'm here too.
I'm here too. I have friends.
Do it again.
Niles is here. Wait, Niles. I'm gonna make an outro bumper for our subscribe to the end clip for every video for this whole year.
That's yours?
This is us asking you if you'll subscribe to our channel.
Click the subscribe button.
And when you subscribe and you watch our videos, click the like button. It's that easy.
Also, Taylor, say something.